Hello Chelsea fans. Welcome again to Chelsea HQ View for an amazing blog post about our beloved Chelsea FC. Kobbie Mainoo to Chelsea, the one thing that could make this shock transfer happen. Picture this, one of Manchester United's brightest young talents, sitting on the bench while his team struggles on the pitch. Sound familiar? Well, that's exactly what's happening with Kobbie Mainoo right now, and it's got Chelsea fans everywhere asking one big question. Could this be our chance to steal one of England's most promising midfielders? The 20-year-old who took the football world by storm last season is now finding himself as an unused substitute in United's first two Premier League games. But here's the kicker, he's told Chelsea exactly what needs to happen if they want to make this transfer dream a reality. And trust me, it's going to make you think twice about how much we really want him at Stamford Bridge. The current situation at Old Trafford. Let's start with what's actually going on at Manchester United. Kobbie Mainoo, the boy who grew up supporting the Red Devils and came through their youth system, is facing a problem that many young players know all too well, fighting for his place in the team. But this isn't just any ordinary squad rotation. United's new manager Ruben Amorim has made it clear that Mainoo is now directly competing with captain Bruno Fernandes for a spot in the starting 11. Now, if you know anything about Bruno Fernandes, you'll know that this guy rarely misses games. In fact, he's only missed 8 Premier League games in the 5.5 years he's been at Old Trafford. What does this mean for Mainoo? Simple. He's got a mountain to climb if he wants regular first-team football. The young midfielder has already been an unused substitute in United's opening 2 Premier League matches this season. For a player who was getting regular game time last season and even broke into the England national team, this must feel like a massive step backward. According to reports from TalkSport, Mainoo is not happy with his current situation. The England international is said to be open to leaving United before the summer transfer deadline of September 1st. That's right. We're talking about a potential exit from his boyhood club. But here's where it gets interesting for us Chelsea fans. Among the clubs reportedly interested in signing Mainoo are Chelsea and Tottenham, along with Brentford, Brighton, and Fulham. Now, we all know that when it comes to competing with Tottenham for a player, we've got some serious advantages. Why Chelsea makes sense for Mainoo? Let's think about this from Mainoo's perspective. He's 20 years old, he's got bags of talent, and he wants to play regular football at the highest level. What can Chelsea offer him that other clubs can't? First up, European football. While clubs like Brentford, Brighton, and Fulham might be interested, they can't offer Mainoo the chance to play in European competitions this season. Neither can United, for that matter. But Chelsea? We're back in Europe, and that's got to be tempting for a young player looking to develop his career. Think about it, Mainoo has already tasted international football with England. He's not going to want to take a step backward by joining a club that can't offer him the platform to showcase his talents on the biggest stages. Then there's the Chelsea project under our current management. We've shown that we're willing to give young players opportunities. Look at Cole Palmer, he joined us from Manchester City and became one of our star players almost immediately. Mainoo could see a similar path opening up for him at Stamford Bridge. But there's one thing that could make or break this potential transfer, and it's something that might surprise you. The one demand that changes everything. Here's where things get really interesting. According to multiple reports, including one from Give Me Sport, Kobbie Mainoo has made his position crystal clear. If he's going to leave Manchester United, whether it's for Chelsea or any other club, he wants to earn around £180,000 per week. Now, let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about a 20-year-old player who currently earns just £20,000 per week at United. That's a massive jump. We're talking about increasing his wages by 9 times what he's currently earning. But here's the thing, Mainoo isn't just asking for this salary from potential new clubs. He's also demanding the same amount from Manchester United if he's going to sign a new contract with them. This wage demand is essentially his price for staying put or moving elsewhere. So what would this mean if Chelsea decided to meet his demands? Well, £180,000 per week would put Mainoo among our top 5 earners at the club. To put that in perspective, it would match the salary that Enzo Fernandez currently collects. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and potentially controversial. That salary would actually put Mainoo ahead of Cole Palmer in our wage structure. Palmer, who has been absolutely brilliant for us since joining from Manchester City, currently earns £130,000 per week. Can you imagine the headlines if we signed a 20-year-old from Manchester United and immediately made him one of our highest paid players, earning more than Cole Palmer? It would certainly send a message about our ambitions, but it might also ruffle some feathers in the dressing room. The financial reality check. Let's be honest about the financial side of this potential deal. Chelsea have been trying to manage our wage bill more carefully in recent years, and adding another high earner might not fit with our current strategy. The £180,000 per week demand could well put us off doing this deal. We've already got several high-earning players on our books, and adding another one might not be the smartest financial move, especially for a player who, despite his talent, is still relatively unproven at the highest level. Compare this to Tottenham's situation. They only have one player, captain Cristian Romero, who earns more than Mainoo's reported wage demand. Romero's new deal, signed earlier this month, puts him at £195,000 per week. So in theory, Tottenham might be in a better position to accommodate Mainoo's salary demands without disrupting their existing wage structure too much. But then again, this is Tottenham we're talking about. When was the last time they won a trophy? Mainoo might earn good money there, but he won't be winning silverware anytime soon. What's really going on behind the scenes? Now, here's where the story gets a bit murky, because not everyone agrees on the exact figures being discussed. TalkSport's Alex Crook has suggested that the actual wage demand might be closer to £150,000 per week rather than £180,000. He's also stressed something important: Mainoo doesn't actually want to leave Manchester United. The player loves the club, having grown up supporting them and coming through their youth system. According to Crook, this is really about Manchester United trying to trim their wage bill while also keeping one of their most valuable assets happy. It's a delicate balancing act, and one that might work in our favour if United can't meet Mainoo's demands. The journalist also mentioned that when Amad Diallo signed his new deal at United, it was for £100,000 per week, significantly less than what United have historically paid their players. This suggests that United are indeed trying to be more careful with their spending, which could push Mainoo toward the exit door if he can't get the deal he wants. There's also the issue of PSR, profit and sustainability rules, that United might have to deal with this summer. Selling Mainoo would actually be pure profit on their balance sheet because of his homegrown status, which could be tempting if they need to balance the books. The bigger picture for Chelsea. Let's zoom out and think about what this potential signing would mean for Chelsea as a whole. Mainoo is valued at around £80 million, making him one of United's biggest assets alongside Alejandro Garnacho. For that kind of money, would be getting a player who has already broken into the England national team at just 20 years old. He's shown that he can compete at the highest level, having played 60 times for United's first team despite his young age. But is he worth disrupting our wage structure for? That's the million-dollar question that our board will need to answer. On one hand, Mainoo represents exactly the kind of young, talented player that could be a cornerstone of our team for the next decade. His English, which helps with homegrown player requirements, and has already proven that he can handle the pressure of playing for a big club. On the other hand, paying a 20-year-old £180,000 per week sets a precedent that could cause problems down the line. What happens when other young players in our squad see that kind of salary being offered to a new signing? What about existing players who might feel undervalued in comparison? The competition factor. Let's not forget that we're not the only club interested in Mainoo. Chelsea have reportedly made tentative contact with his representatives, but so have other clubs. Tottenham are mentioned as serious contenders, and they do have some advantages. They can offer European football, they're based in London, which many players prefer, and as mentioned earlier, their wage structure might be better suited to accommodate Mainoo's demands. Then there are the other Premier League clubs, Brentford, Brighton, and Fulham. While they can't offer European football, they might be able to offer something that both Chelsea and Tottenham can't: guaranteed first-team football from day one. At Brighton, for example, Mainoo would likely walk straight into their starting 11 and be one of their star players immediately. At Chelsea or Tottenham, he'd still have to fight for his place and prove himself worthy of that hefty salary. What this means for our current squad. If Chelsea did decide to pursue Mainoo and meet his wage demands, it would have implications for our current squad makeup. In midfield, we've got players like Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and Conor Gallagher, if he stays. Adding Mainoo to that mix would give us incredible depth and quality, but it would also mean some tough decisions about who gets to play. The salary aspect is particularly interesting when you consider Cole Palmer's situation. Palmer has been absolutely fantastic for us, arguably our best player since joining. If we're going to pay a new signing more than Palmer earns, we might need to look at upgrading Palmer's contract too, which would add even more to our wage bill. The realistic outcome. So what's actually going to happen here? Well, if we're being realistic, there are several possible scenarios. The most likely outcome might be that Manchester United and Mainoo reach a compromise on his contract. Reports suggest that all parties might come to an agreement on terms of around £150,000 per week including bonuses. That would keep Mainoo at Old Trafford while giving him the pay rise he's looking for. But if that doesn't happen, Chelsea could definitely be in the mix. The question is whether we're willing to meet his salary demands and pay the transfer fee that United would want. There's also the possibility that Mainoo ends up at Tottenham or one of the other interested clubs. Football transfers are unpredictable, and sometimes players end up at clubs that weren't even mentioned in the early rumors. The fan perspective. As Chelsea fans, how should we feel about this potential signing? On one hand, the idea of signing a talented young England international from Manchester United is undeniably exciting. It would be a statement of intent and show that we can still attract top talent. On the other hand, the financial demands are significant, and we have to ask whether it's the best use of our resources. Could we get better value by investing that money in other areas of the squad? There's also the question of whether Mainoo would actually improve our team immediately. He's talented, no doubt, but is he better than what we already have in midfield? And is he worth the risk of potentially unsettling our existing wage structure? Looking ahead. Whatever happens with Mainoo, this situation highlights some important points about modern football. Young players are increasingly willing to move clubs to get the opportunities and salaries they feel they deserve. The days when players would stick with their boyhood clubs no matter what are largely behind us. For Chelsea, it's another reminder that we need to be smart about our transfer strategy. We can't just throw money at every talented player that becomes available. We need to think carefully about value, both in terms of transfer fees and wages. The Mainoo situation also shows how quickly things can change in football. A year ago, he was breaking into United's first team and looking like he had a bright future at Old Trafford. Now, he's reportedly considering leaving because of his position in the squad. The final verdict. So, will Kobbie Mainoo end up at Chelsea? Right now, it's impossible to say for certain. His wage demands are significant, and they might well price him out of a move to Stamford Bridge. But if our board decides that he's worth the investment, and if we can convince him that Chelsea is the right place for his career development, then this could be a signing that transforms our midfield for years to come. The one thing that's clear is that Mainoo has made his demands known. £180,000 per week is what he wants, whether he stays at United or moves elsewhere. Now it's up to the clubs interested in him to decide whether he's worth that kind of money. For Chelsea fans, all we can do is wait and see. Transfer windows are always full of surprises, and this one could be no different. Whether Mainoo ends up in a Chelsea shirt or stays at Old Trafford, his situation is a fascinating insight into how modern football transfers work and how young players are increasingly taking control of their own destinies. What do you think? Would you want Chelsea to meet Mainoo's wage demands to bring him to Stamford Bridge? Or should we look elsewhere for midfield reinforcements? Let us know your thoughts, because this is one transfer saga that's far from over.